So welcome back to this video series on how to make this project team management app. So far we've got most of it done here in terms of we can create a new item, edit existing items. But one thing I want to add in today is some error checking on the information we add in. So right now I could create a new item and I could leave, let's say, the employee blank, the project blank, and just put in a comment and save that. And what I'll end up with is kind of not a great item here that doesn't have an employee, doesn't have a project, and doesn't have a comment. Not ideal. So what we're going to do is put in some error checking to make sure you cannot do that. So I'm going to put it on my save button here. And we're going to look at what's going on throughout the app. So I'm going to put in an if, and we're going to look at each of these fields. So this field here is called our CBO employee. So if our CBO employee is blank, so I'm going to go back down to my save button here. I'm going to check if my CBO employee is blank, CBO employee, and I'm actually going to put in is blank because we want to check is it blank, and make an error if it is blank. So if my CBO employee is blank, and I'm going to make a new variable that, let's say, will set an error to true or false. So we're going to call this update context, let's say, a context variable, and I'm going to call it var employee error. And I'm actually going to lay it out like this. So I'm going to say var employee error, and then on this side of that colon, I'm going to put in if is blank CBO employee. Well, if it's blank, I'm going to say it's true. I'm going to make this variable true, that there is an error, and otherwise I'm going to say false. And I'm going to close that up. And this is going to create a variable that will tell me that is, if it's empty, if it's blank, that field is blank, this is going to be true. Otherwise, it's going to be false. I'm going to do the same for the other two fields. So I'm going to just copy this right now. I'm going to hop down here, put in the second one. I'm going to call it project error because that's the name of my field down here for project. So I'm going to call this var project error. And I'm going to change this now to be what I would imagine we call this was probably txt project. So if is blank txt project, then we're going to set that variable to true. Otherwise, I'm going to set that variable to false. And similarly, I'm going to do the same for my comment. So I'm just going to copy all that and put it in down here. And I'm building up a bunch of variables that will be either set to true or false depending on whether the corresponding field is empty or not. So I'm going to call this var comment error. And if I would imagine this was called, txt comment. If that's blank, then we're going to set our variable to true. Otherwise, we're going to set it to false. Now, where this is going to come into play is I'm going to say, I'm not going to let us do any of this patch statement here if any of these errors are actually true. So I'm going to put in an if, and I'm going to say if, let's say, var employee error or var comment error or var project error, and that's instantly going to kind of know that, I mean, if these are true, if these variables are set to true. And I kind of want nothing to happen when they're true, and when they're false, I want to do the patch. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put another bracket around these, and I'm going to put in a little exclamation mark to say, if these are not true, then let's do this patch statement. I don't really have an otherwise statement, so I'm just going to go down to the bottom there beside my navigate screen gallery and close out that. So it keeps my patch statement in here, and what it's saying is really, if none of these are true, so if there's no error, then we'll do all this. So right now, this should not patch. You should not navigate to the home screen right now because there should be an error. Now, one problem here is we can't actually see that there's an error. So what we're going to do is get these to glow red when they are in an error state. So I'm going to go up here into my border color. So on employee, I'm going to go to border color. And right now it's kind of set to stuff that's to do with that form. I'm going to delete that, and that's useful too, but right now this is what we're going to do next. Is going to be stuff you can apply to any sort of field, which is very handy. So I'm going to say if, and we're going to say var, this field here is var employee. So if var employee error, we're going to make our border red. Otherwise, let's leave our border whatever that is. Let's see if we can get a purple by just typing in the word purple. So now, because we've got an error, you can see that that's red. If I fill this in with something, like let's say I pick my name here, let's put in Philip, select me. Now when I hit save, it should do that check, yeah, and it comes back as just purple. Now one issue with that is, let's try and get it to be blank again. One issue with that is, yeah, the red is enough, but it's also useful to make our border extra thick as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to highlight that again, and I'm going to go up to my border thickness. Right now it's set to 2, and I'm just going to replace that with if var employee error. So if there's an error, I want the border to be 4, otherwise I want it to be 2. That's going to give us this extra kind of thick line, so that if I hit save now, oh, I think I've gotten that backwards, so let's have a look. So if there's a var employee error, yeah, I want it to be 4, otherwise I want it to be 2. And let's look at my color, make sure I've got everything the same. var employee error, so that all looks fine to me. So let's just hit home and try that out again. Let's go back in. If I hit save here, for some reason it's not registering some of that, so let's see what's going on. So it should be setting my var employee error here. And one way of checking that is we're going to insert a little label here, and this way we can check to make sure that things are true or false as they need to be. So let's put in var employee error. And you can see it's coming up as false there, despite when I hit save. So maybe we need to try if is blank cbo employee dot, and I would imagine it's going to be selected. Maybe selected items, let's see. No, let's try something here like selected dot. And here I think we might be onto something here, display name. And I'm going to hit save. And that now is beginning to work for us because it's now recognizing. It's just that element there needs a little more logic. So now if I pick my name once again here, let's put that in. Hopefully that red line will go away and it goes back to being a border thickness of 2. And let's get rid of my name again and let's see what happens. So if I get rid of that and I hit save, it's going to recognize that we've got an error. So our issue there was that we needed our dot selected dot display name. Now hopefully we don't have the same issues with project here. So let's see. I'm going to get rid of this. Let's actually update this to var project error so we can keep track of our project error. So right now this is set to true. So if I put some similar logic up here, let's get rid of everything on our border color. I'm going to put in if var project error. Then I want to be red, otherwise I want to be purple. So hopefully it should recognize straight away that this needs to be red, and it does. We're going to put in something very similar in on our border thickness. We're going to just go for if var project error. And want this to be red, or actually want it to be 4, otherwise I want it to be 2, because here we're dealing with border thickness. And while we're going, I'm going to do the same for this comment down here. I'm going to go and sort out our border color, and this will be if var comment error, we want it to be red, otherwise we want it to be purple. Same again, close our bracket, and same for our border thickness. We're going to want if var comment error, we want it to be 4, otherwise we'll want it to be 2. So now if I hit save here, well, it's not giving me an error on my comment because I have that filled in correctly. But if I hit save now, all of these are highlighted in red. But as I fill these in a little bit, let's put in select an employee here. Let's put in something like a new project. Hit save. It's beginning to recognize that there's stuff that is getting filled in and fixed. And here's my comment. And now, because I've got everything filled in, it should navigate to the previous page and add in that new item. And there it is down there. So that's how to add in a little bit of error checking into our fields here. I'm going to get rid of that little comment box up there. And one thing to note is the way I have it set up, if you get rid of that, make it empty, it's going to be red even when you fill in stuff. It's going to be red until you hit that save button, because that's where that logic is, where we've got some of that checking to see if it's blank or not. You could put in some of those errors, like this text here. You could maybe put that in on the onChange event, which would give you a more instant update. So if I, let's say, go to my comment box here and I go to my onChange and I put in that update comment, so that it'll check right away when I change this, have I changed it from being blank to having some information. So now when I click away, it instantly recognizes it. And once again, if I make it blank, when I click away, it instantly recognizes it. One thing about that is I kind of like when you hit save, that it's only then that it gives you kind of, let's say, all the feedback. But that's how you add some error checking. Very handy to kind of keep from having any let's say unfortunate data inside your SharePoint list, like here, the blank information. So it'll keep you from having any issues like that.